Hello and welcome to Cody and Corbin Have a Podcast, the show where two former roommates talk about a new movie every week. This week on the show, we're talking about The Prestige.
How'd you like that?
How do you do it?
Magic.
I'll perform this feat in a manner never before seen by yourselves or any other audience anywhere in the world.
The audience loved it.
This trick is top-notch.
We need to celebrate.
A real magician tries to invent something new.
I'm your host, Corbin Zavocal, also known as The Great Corbino. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, my lovely assistant, Cody Webb. Cody, how are we doing?
Well, I'm gonna have to quit the show after that intro. Yeah, man, doing good. Super excited for this episode. And yeah, how you doing though, man? Fucking what a day to be alive, man. Excited.
Hey, I'm excited too. We're talking about The Prestige, which is probably if you take like the overlapping interests of you and I, this might be like our shared most favorite movie. So
Really?
It's a good one, and I'm excited to talk about it. Our second Christopher Nolan film. Let's get into it. Cody, why'd you pick The Prestige?
Why?
Yeah, no, definitely a good question. I feel like this movie's not that mainstream, honestly, but it is one of my all-time favorites. And it's one of the ones I've wanted to do on the show for a good while now. I think I've said it probably about, 5 or 6 times on the pod. When am I going to do The Prestige? And I figured, I get another pick this season, might as well make it a good one. So I stuck it.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, we're only a couple episodes in, and you already have 2 picks. 5th episode, 2 picks. How's it feel?
Feels good, man. Last season, I don't know. I think it took about, 20 episodes to get 2 picks. So, no, I mean, I like our normal format. I like the other stuff we do as well. And I think it's a good mix and match. But yeah, man, I'm not going to lie. I really enjoy picking movies to talk about. And this is definitely one of the ones I've wanted to do for a while. So I'm jacked.
Definitely a great pick. I think there's a lot to be said about this movie, a lot to unpack. And one that I've seen a bunch of times. So I think it's fun, even in rewatching it. It's just like you're able to pick up new things. So let's get into our initial thoughts.
Good morning, Vietnam!
I'll get us started. First of all, Magic is this is my letterbox review as well, but Magic is just fucking sick, dude. I think any movie about magic, even if it's a bad movie, is still like pretty fun to watch. And I think this is at the top of the genre when it comes to like magician movies. So got to say that right off the bat. Obviously, also it's got that Nolan twist of like, a scattered timeline and these two characters that are at odds with each other. And I think specifically, the way he tells the story, where there's a little bit of heart and a little bit of intrigue and maybe even a little bit of real magic at the core of it is super intriguing. So what are your initial thoughts, Cody?
No, I completely agree. And I think what Nolan does pretty masterfully here is, make a realistic magic movie, but still have those fun, like supernatural elements inside of it as well, which, I mean, it's magic. It lends itself pretty good to that, I think. But just in general as well, I think this might be one of my favorite scripts of all time. It's not a long movie. It's only like 2 hours, maybe 2:10. And there's so much jam-packed in this 2 hours, but it doesn't feel like that. It just feels like, you're going through these twists and turns. Like you said, it's not, a straight up, chronological movie. They throw it all over the place. And especially at the beginning, they throw it basically to the end. But I mean, that just keeps you on your toes. And like, I don't know, I think it's almost perfectly told and very good direction. But also I wanted to point out, I think the acting is unbelievable in this movie. The like lead 5 all have pretty prominent roles and are all disgustingly good. So I don't know, man. I don't know if I've seen a better like top 5 performances than this movie. Obviously, there's tons and tons of great movies and all that good stuff, but 100% one of my favorites. I think this is probably maybe the 5th or 6th time I've seen this movie. Probably the first time I watched it, like college, so good, like 5-6 years ago. But yeah, definitely one of my favorites. Also, I mean, it's my favorite twist in movie history. I've probably said that about some other movies before, but
Definitely a top 5 easily.
Yeah, I think this is undeniably a top 2, top 3 twist of all time.
Because I mean, it's really like it's like a double twist. I mean,
yeah, the entire movie's a magic trick.
yeah.
You just watched The Prestige, literally. You got fooled, which I think is awesome, and that's why I love the script so much. But yeah, man, I'm super high on this movie. You got any more initial thoughts?
Well, I guess how would you describe the story structure of this film? Like, how is it laid out? What is it doing exactly?
Well, it's interesting because right off the bat, we're thrown into, this guy, he is being tried for murder. And I mean, we see that he doesn't kill him. So we know he's innocent. And then we throw him in prison reading a diary of a dead guy, we think. And then eventually we find out, he set him up because at the end of that diary, he goes, I framed you for my murder. But then as the story goes on, there's another diary reading and we find out he got set up. There's just so many twists and turns and there's a lot of diary reading and it sounds boring, but it's actually pretty fun. And chronologically though, it does like go back and forth pretty seamlessly and they don't always spell out where the timeline is. You just have to know like where the story's at, which I think is cool.
Yeah. And I think in some movies that much like diary reading could really be a fault, but I think it masterfully handles all the exposition that it has to deal with. Like there is a ton of it. There's a ton of just talking and explaining and but it always just keeps just enough information out of your reach. So whether that's by not showing you something visually or when a character says something, they don't 100% mean what they're saying or they're using it in a different context. And it's always keeping you guessing. And I think it's just like all across the board, fantastic. Like you said, writing, acting, editing is amazing. And it's shot really well as well. So let's get into it. You kind of started to mention a little bit the title, roll credits.
Roll credits.
Yeah. The title I think is maybe my favorite title of all time. I'm just going to keep throwing that out. It's the best of all time. But I mean, yeah, also they say the words, The Prestige multiple times.
Do you know how early into the film it first gets said?
I mean, well, the opening and closing is
3 minutes and 9 seconds into the film, and you got Michael Kane.
I think it might be. Depending where you start, if you don't count like all the
from
credits,
from the runtime of like the movie starts, it's 3 minutes.
I mean, it's literally like once the title card goes, it's probably like a minute. To be fair. But yeah, no, I love how they use the title in this movie. Obviously, the whole movie is, but the opening and the closing, just speech from Michael Kane explaining what how magic tricks works, all the terminologies and stuff. I think it's a sick way to start a movie and a sick way to end a movie. Sort of like I was saying in a past episode, like the whole Gone Girl thing, where it's a similar shot. They're doing it, but in a different way, just with dialogue. But it has such different meaning the first time versus the second time you hear it. And I think that's masterfully done.
Yeah, absolutely. That mirror image of the opening and closing is crazy. And obviously, like it is also a story beat as well. Like literally talking about the pledge, the turn, the prestige. Like it is talked about in the story. Even, he wants to buy his tricks. Oh, well, I'm giving you just the pledge and the turn, but you'll to get the prestige, I need to see that my daughter's safe. And just constantly trying to figure out what the prestige is, right? The whole time, Hugh Jackman's character is so intent and so obsessed with discovering how the tricks are done. And it's the central, goal of our, well, actually, here's a question. Is Hugh Jackman the protagonist of the story, Cody?
For about 90 minutes, you think he is, but he takes a pretty dark turn at the end. Michael Kane doesn't like it, evidently. But I mean, I feel like he is the good guy of the story just because Christian Bale does come off first character or whatever. But yeah, I mean, he is kind of a dick the entire movie. I mean, we started off with him just, on purpose or not, but he kills Hugh Jackman's wife. If that's not the antagonist, I don't know what is. But I mean, Hugh Jackman, he does some pretty terrible things as well. Notably, he captures, Christian Bale, but we don't know that. Puts him in a coffin and buries him. He does a lot of bad stuff. And then obviously he frames him for murder and lets him die. But I mean, overall, I'd say he is the protagonist, but I mean, in the end, I kind of feel for Christian Bale. Like, yeah, he did make a mistake when he was young a long time ago, but at the end of the day, I think he might be the better man than Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, the movie is entirely about the idea of obsession and how far will a man go to feed that obsession or to find its source. And unfortunately, it makes Angier turn and end up, sending a man to his own death. So I don't know. I think it's interesting to look at it from Borden's perspective of, yeah, he made some mistakes. Maybe he wasn't the best dude, but here he is sitting in prison for, something he didn't do. And he's reading this diary. So it's interesting.
I think I'm just gonna keep going, whatever. I think it's a cool arc as well, because the entire thing is centered around, more so than the rivalry, who can grasp the audience like imagination with like this great trick. And I think Bale has the trick, Borden, whatever. I'm just gonna call him Bale and Jackman, fuck it. But I think he has the trick, but he doesn't have the showmanship. And the problem with at Angier is, when he does this great trick, he's underneath the stage. He can't see the crowd. And then we finally get that moment where, well, I mean, it's all like up for debate, but I think he does like transport bodies in a sense. But we get that moment where he's at the top of the crowd and he has that, magician's perfect moment or whatever. But it's not enough for him still. He still has that obsession to, continue this rivalry, even though he's achieved what I thought was his goal. But, like you said, I think it does, like the first half of the movie is really the antagonist is Borden, but the second half, it's more the antagonist is Angier. And I think that's super interesting, and you don't see that a lot.
Yeah. Also, and you have those themes of like Angier he gets so far gone and so far lost, and Borden is the opposite side of the coin, because while he's maybe not the showmanship, he spends his entire life, living half a life and in trading places. And it's just crazy because he's like truly dedicated to the craft. And it's something that Angier, like that Hugh Jackman's character is not even able to like ever comprehend, like the simplest answer of like, hey, like there's two of them. Like he does technically use a double, right? Or he spent his entire life, and you get that, the mirror, it's similar to that, the Asian character that the magician that they find. I can't remember the name of the character, but how he's basically this guy who has spent his entire life, pretending to be this frail old man just for the dedicated, like his life is the trick. And that's so interesting.
Yeah. I think another cool theme on top of that is, you have to make sacrifices to be successful. And I mean, they both pretty much made the ultimate sacrifice. One had to watch his wife die in his arms, and the other is literally living half a life with, one in love with one woman and one in love with another. Yeah, a lot of cool themes, I think. And like you said, at the top here, we could unpack this probably for days and days. Just, the amount of content that is in this movie, the amount of interesting themes is pretty significant, I think, and something that I really enjoy.
Yeah, let's move on to stupidest part.
You stupid.
They're not.
So let's bring it down a little bit.
Right.
I have a lot of like small nitpicky things as usual, but I don't know. I kind of have a lot. I feel like there's a few things you can point out. So why don't you get us started, Cody?
Yeah, I have a decent amount as well. But none of it's like, major stuff. Most of it's just like little dumb stuff.
Doesn't prevent us from still loving the movie, but it when you watch it enough times, I mean, you're gonna find those things. So
yeah, no movie is without its fault. No movie is past us picking it apart. But
I think something with Nolan is that Nolan is somebody who makes some mistakes, and he has some clear inconsistencies, and I think that's prevalent throughout all his movies. They don't always make 100%, but it doesn't tie up perfectly in a beautiful bow, because maybe life isn't like that always. So
yeah, 100%. And I'll just start off with some of my small stuff. Off the bat, Michael Kane, he's always prepared for the water stunts. If something goes wrong, he's there to get him out, right? Well, why the hell does he have such a small axe? This thing.
And you didn't learn the second time.
I guess not, because this thing takes about 15 good strikes to it to just, open it up a little bit. I mean, this is ridiculous, Michael Caine. He clearly doesn't care about these performers at all. Obviously, it's for, effect and a little bit of drama, but I think that's pretty stupid off the bat.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. If you're gonna be so concerned about it and it's like your number one fear that something's gonna happen, then like why not have some sort of backup plan to like get her out? I don't know.
I agree 100%. I'll just go. I have 4, so I'll go into my second one here.
Okay.
Well, this isn't really. I don't know if it's dumb, but it's just sort of a question I have in general. But I think I know the answer. But whose kid is this daughter of his? Because it should be the one who's in love with his wife or whatever. But I'm not too sure. And then sort of also, how do they know whose kid it is for sure? That's my question. Do you have answers for me, Corbin?
I mean, there might be an answer to the second one, but I don't know if I want to go there. I'm not sure. I think I read something online. Like, so there's you can break it down into Freddie and Alfred.
Right.
And Freddie's the one that Scarlett Johansson is in love with.
Yeah.
And then Alfred is the one that actually loves his wife. Now, because I think it kind of seems like only one of them is really having the rivalry with Angier. Would you agree with that? Or do you think they're both heavily against him?
I think
because it always seemed like, or at least on this watch where I was trying to differentiate the two, which is very hard to do at different times. But it seems like the one who falls in love with Scarlett Johansson's character is the one who like is bitter and is still living in the past, whereas like the other one, he's happy, he's in love, he has a kid, he has his wife, but I think he might be the one who pays the price and dies in the end. I think it might be the one who lost his wife. What do you think?
I think I disagree with that, actually. I think you might be right in the first part that you're saying, but I don't know. I think they both do have a rivalry with him. I think 100% the one who's in love, or Freddie, we'll just call him Freddie, I believe, is the one who kills his wife, because Alfred definitely is the one who shows up to the funeral, and he can't give an answer on what knot he tied because he wasn't there. But I think at the end it is Freddie who dies as well. But in a sense, I think that kind of proves that they both had a rivalry. Well, I don't know, actually. No, I think you're right. I think Freddie has the rivalry because he goes to the show. He's obsessed with what this trick is, so he has to check it out. So he gets framed. He's the one in the murder. I mean, he's the one who gets framed for murder. He's the one who says, "I'm sorry about Sarah," because it was pretty much Freddie's fault that she killed herself. So I think Freddie paid the price. Maybe Alfred was, more of a low key, he was happy with the family. He didn't care too much about Angier, but obviously they weren't fans of him because they were, both being dicks to each other. But that is interesting. Maybe it was just one twin was like majorly obsessed, and the other was like, all right, I'm in this, like, but I don't care that much.
Yeah, and I guess this moves into kind of my stupidest part is I think their working relationship of the two versions of Borden like could have been better. Like they could have handled it better. They really failed. Like I think his wife didn't need to die. I think specifically the scene at dinner where the Freddie version shows up with Scarlett Johansson and then his wife is sitting there and he's just being an asshole. And I get it's like right after, I believe he's the one who was just buried alive.
Yeah.
And they then switch after that. And he's obviously pissed off about that, but like that could be avoided. And then it's not until later that the other Alfred is like, hey man, like, can you help me with like handle my wife, like my wife and daughter? Like, can you help me be like, you would think this, if they're going to lead this whole life, there would be a discussion before that of like, hey, no matter what, like we have to maintain this. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's easy to say though, but I mean, if I was twins with somebody and they were kind of going in a direction of, their life that I didn't really want to,
I feel like you could have told.
It's hard to do that though. It is all about.
You could have told your wife too. Like you could have told her, and I think, and she knows.
Yeah, she definitely knows. But
it's like just the fact that he won't admit it is what caused all the issues.
I agree, and I mean, also when they're like fighting right before her death scene, what's his name, Fallon, whatever, the other guy, he basically could just like walk in and take off his makeup and be like, yeah, everybody knows here, let's just have Freddie have his fun with somebody
I'm the
else.
one, I'm in love with you. Like,
yeah,
let's just
like that. that's an easy solve, so she doesn't have to die, basically. But yeah, I do agree with that. You want to keep going? I do have a couple more.
Yeah, I got some more.
Okay.
So the way that the cipher book is written, like, doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Mhm.
I don't know if you agree. So, like, at least I think it maybe is just a little bit of like the movie aspect of it. But when he does his voiceover dialogue, when Christian Bale starts to do the voiceover of like him reading his cipher thing, it's like he's telling a story. It's not like it's a diary, right? It's like he wrote a novel about his life, which is just strange.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not actually written that way, and it's just the way the movie presents it. But if it is written that way, you got to imagine, like, why does Hugh Jackman not think like, hey, this is weird. This isn't some diary. Like, this definitely seems like a story written to me, and not, you know, but then he's so surprised at the end. And then not only that, he gets to the point like 3/4 through the book where Angier just like drops a hint that like, Borden drops a hint in the cipher that this is all a setup. And then suddenly he's like, and he flips like 6 pages forward, and then he like reads the last line, and it's like, oh, now you've discovered that this was all a setup, and I sent you here on a fake mission. Which that brings me to the next point.
Mhm.
How does this, like, I don't understand how he sends him to Tesla, but then Tesla actually happens to be able to make this machine that he just made up, and it works. Like, that doesn't really make any sense either.
I low-key love that, actually. The weird thing about it is, so obviously the Tesla set up in a former scene, and sort of Borden is there, and he sort of like stays there when everybody else leaves, including Angier. So it's sort of like that would be kind of plausible of how that trick would possibly work. So it's fun because that's a good setup to trick Hugh Jackman. But then Tesla is this absolute madman who actually does make a major breakthrough. So I think Borden just used him just for like the lights on his show. Because when he moved like up theaters, he got like some electrical lights, and he was probably just like with Tesla, like, oh, this isn't harmful, right? Like, it just looks cool. So I think he sort of just used Tesla as the presentation guy for his act, and then as well to throw off Angier. But like, this guy is absolutely insane, and he's trying everything possible on this mountain that he could think of. I think it's a really cool setup, and that character, we haven't talked about that character at all. Tesla is my absolute favorite character in this movie, and there's no doubt about it. I think it's the performance of a lifetime from one of the least expected actors I would have ever thought. The first time I saw this movie, I watched all the way through. I had no idea who played Nicholas Tesla. And if you when I looked it up and I saw it was David Bowie, my mind was absolutely blown. But in general, I do understand where you're coming from, but I just think that's a fun twist.
Fair. Absolute heat check from Bowie there. Just like later in life, just coming in, being in a Nolan movie, and just playing this like real life character, and it's insane. Here's another one for you.
Mm-hmm.
How do they find a dude who looks exactly like Hugh Jackman?
Yeah, I knew this was gonna come up too.
There's just some bloke in London who like looks exactly like him.
Yeah, some drunk guy. Everything with Root, I think, is probably the weakest point in this movie. I agree. I really don't have any answers because it's just strange, and the visuals kind of off. Like, it is Hugh Jackman, but at the same time, it's not.
Well, the first time you see him, there's definitely like a little bit of like weird prosthetic or something going on where like they try and make him look slightly different. But then once he gets cleaned up or whatever, it's literally just Hugh Jackman.
Oh no, it couldn't be anybody else. But yeah, I agree. That was 100% on my list, and I think that's probably the dumbest part of the movie.
You got anything else?
I do have a couple more. These are pretty stupid. I think these are probably my top tier dumbest parts. First off, Hugh Jackman, he straight up just shows up at the prison with Christian Bale's daughter. Like, he has no disguise. Yeah. He has a mustache. That's it. You can't just show up to the prison of the man who you framed for your murder, and there's no repercussions.
I agree. It's so dumb. Like, it's a dumb character move, but I think it fits the story well because it kind of goes back to what we talked about, how like Angier is so obsessed with seeing that reaction. And like you see
Yeah.
early in the movie, when he's underneath the stage and he doesn't get to hear see the clapping and get the praise, it just eats him alive. And in that final moment, he knows Borden's going to go to his death, and he cannot live with Borden not finding out before he dies that, hey, I pulled the greatest magic trick on you, when, you know, he ends up getting the tables turned on him. But it just shows how vain he is. Like he has to go to the prison to show off.
Yeah, that's a good point. But you know, Bale, he also waits until he's walking out to be like, that's the man who
And he just like flips out and sounds like a crazy person.
Yeah, no. That is stupid, but that's a good point. And then my big one, which I do want to talk about a little bit. I don't know how, but these are the worst assistants of all time, based off the fact they keep picking the same guys to help them with the tricks. I mean, get like a sketch artist out here. Show the assistants who your arch rival is, who tried to kill multiple times. Do not pick this person to help you out. Shoot a gun at
And they
him,
never
or-
they never even try and pay attention. Like,
No. You know, obviously it's all set up for the end, I guess, where they do want to pick him. But I mean, they continuously just ruin each other's acts and, you know, ruin the reputations over and
I think
over.
the bullet one is the worst one, because it's like he stares at him for like 15 seconds and he's like, oh shit, this guy's actually gonna kill me. It's Angier, when it's like it's obvious it's him.
Yeah, no,
Your mortal enemy.
These are the worst instances of all time. I don't understand how, you know, they keep picking these people, but you know, it's good film, so I'm not too mad about it. But you know, just grow some minds. It's not that hard.
Here's one for you.
Mhm.
The main character's initials spell Abra.
Alfred Bolton and what is
Borden. Alfred Borden and Robert Angier.
Oh, Robert. That's right. Nobody calls him Robert except for ScarJo. I like that. Why not?
Nah,
Fun
that's stupid.
that should have been in weird movie trivia. Come on.
Well, I didn't know how to ask it, so I just wanted to share it here. I think it's stupid. Here's the other thing.
Mhm.
So Christopher Nolan movies, we do like him as a director, but one of the problems that a lot of people have, and I understand why, is that he tries to take movies with, you know, crazy twists and turns and sci-fi and a little bit of realism, but he tries to inject this like some sort of like goodness or like some overarching message or theme, or like in Interstellar, like it's a great movie, and then at the end it's like it's all about love and family and connection across the galaxy, and like
Yeah.
it tries to put some heart into it when like maybe it doesn't need it. And I think that happens a little bit in this movie as well, and it kind of goes back to what we were just talking about. It's like I think a major theme is like don't be vain and like be fair, and like the only reason Borden in the end wins is because he split the time with him and his twin brother, and they lived the double life and they were dedicated to the craft, and the vanity of Angier is what got him killed in the end, and the fact that he couldn't just live without seeing his glory. So I just think like in a movie like this, like it's a little cheap sometimes for me from Nolan. I think it gets overplayed, hits the nail on the head a little too much.
No, I do agree with that. And I think, like you said, Nolan, he has done it a lot more prominent in the past. This is a little bit more low key of, you know, describing like why things happen. But that definitely is, I think, the reason of, you know, why I think they took Jackman's character that way. They wanted to show, like you said, the vanity of obsession in a sense. But yeah, no, Interstellar, my God, that is smacking you on the head with it. This is, you know, just a little tap. Tap. But I do agree.
Favorite scene?
She is very gorgeous to me.
There's a lot of great ones here. I'll get it started. I mean, you talked about it a little bit already, but the opening and the closing are both so great. The opening sets the stage for the movie in a perfect way. You hear Michael Caine's voiceover, and then you see the characters, you know, when you're introduced to them. It's great. The closing, even better. The way it's edited together, the Borden falling and snapping his neck, and then the appearance in the theater with the other Borden showing up and shooting Angier, and I just think that's fantastic. It's masterclass stuff.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. That is easily my favorite scene. Just a great ending. I think I've said this before, but it's so hard to have a great ending to a movie, I think. and this nails it completely. Everything you said. I also love the abracadabra line as he right before he gets his neck snapped. And that whole conversation between Angier and Borden at the end is super interesting. They're talking about, like I said, who sacrificed the most, and why does Angier deserve that? But he's done his sacrifice as well. They're surrounded by his dead bodies, and I completely agree. I think they nailed it. The opening, closing, like you said too, book ending. Another, I don't have too many favorite scenes, honestly. I mean, obviously the whole movie's great, but it's harder, I think, to pick out specific stuff other than the ending. So I think just everything in general in Colorado is super fun, especially visually. I think that's where the coolest visuals are. I mean, the Tesla introduction of him just walking through the electricity is sick. The lights at night with Andy Serkis, I think, is very, very cool visually. And also just, I mean, generally the story up there is cool as well. He's got to bide his time to, even see this crazy guy. And then he's just so eccentric, and he's exactly what I think Nikola Tesla would be in a sense. But Andy Serkis is all right. The guy at the front desk of the hotel, I'm a big fan of. I think he's underrated in this movie. But just every interaction between Jackman and Tesla, I think, is worth your watch.
Yeah, I was gonna say specifically like the lunch they have, I think is really great. That you got the line. You're familiar with the phrase, man's reach exceeds his grasp. It's a lie. Man's grasp exceeds his nerve. And I think that's just, I love that so much. And then obviously, there's the warning from Tesla, like you don't understand how much you're going to sacrifice when you do this. And Angier doesn't care. He's locked in, and he's dedicated to seeing the task completed. So yeah, it's pretty great stuff. The only other one I wanted to mention, and you said that the root stuff doesn't work for you, and I do agree that for the most part the character doesn't work, but I think specifically the scene where he finally he turns on him, I think is really great. Again, it's that back and forth editing. You get Borden rolling up to the character of Root at the bar and talking to him like he's Angier, and then that juxtaposed with the final act happening where he drops and he breaks his legs, and then Borden comes out and he's the real hero, and I think that's really funny. So
yeah, no, that is a great scene. That, like you said, very good editing there, and I love the payoff where Borden comes out and he's got him hanging up on the thing. He's like, go across the street to my theater, and Angier's just laying on the ground. I think that is a very good scene as well.
Yeah. Let's move on to let's talk filmmaking.
We are Full Sail University. We take dreams seriously.
I can get us started.
Go for it, Teach.
So the big thing I want to talk about is just the editing in this film as a whole. I think the way that Chris Nolan and the editor are able to craft this movie together and put it in a cohesive, full story, managing all these different timelines, and the editing has a huge role in the way that we're able to understand it and that things actually make sense. So, there's 146 time jump cuts. So there's 146 times where we go from one scene at one particular time and we jump to another. So, which is insane. You average that out, it's actually one timeline jump per minute of the movie. Every minute we're switching back and forth, which is just really crazy. But while it can be confusing on the first watch, and I think you're benefited a lot more from a second watch, you can definitely understand it at the end of the movie. I think it's not too confusing. It does a really good job of managing all these characters, all these different timelines, all these different characters when you literally have people playing themselves in two different spots. And it's really crazy. The thing on top of that is you take the structure of the turn, the pledge, the prestige, and you can compare that to a 3-act structure of a movie. You have the intro, you have the body, the conclusion, the climax that happens, and then the story is resolved. And obviously this film has that a little bit, but it's also jumbled up. And then in reality, the entire thing is the prestige, and the entire thing is the conclusion, which is pretty great. So you have the moment, it's able to layer in Borden laying in prison, reading the diary of Angier, who's reading the diary of Borden, and then living out the moments. And it perfects that in a way that is just incredible that it is able to manage that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with everything you're saying. And the thing for me is I think the first time I watched this movie was probably my favorite watch. Like it is confusing. There's a ton going on for a 2-hour movie, but I think the realization of, this is the prestige. You're watching a magic trick, I think is very cool. And yeah, to contribute some to the filmmaking segment here, I did bring one little thing. I think this was robbed for a little bit of costume design. The amount of prosthetics and fake beards and fake hair, it's a lot in this movie, and I think it's most of it's decent. Obviously, it's fake to be fake's sake, but I don't know. I think maybe it was robbed. It was nominated for best cinematography, which I thought was very cool. I don't know if I would have expected that, but maybe a tough year for costumes. And just in general, like the way it was shot, I think it's pretty fun at times. Just because you have Fallon and you have Borden, you never really get a good look at Fallon except for a couple of like important shots. I think the one where they're saying goodbye at the prison and you finally get like a still shot on him for like good 5 seconds. And yeah, on your first watch, you're like, wait, who is this guy? Why have I not seen this guy's face for? And then it starts to like turn the gears a little bit. I just think the way he uses the camera, visually is pretty important as well to the storytelling.
Click. You ever heard of that movie? You ever heard of a movie called Click, Cody?
Oh yeah, I've got a Sandman classic.
Nominated for Best Makeup at the Academy Awards.
That's fair. I probably would have picked this over it, but Click does have some good like old man Sandler stuff, so I back it.
Fair enough. All right, we can move on to weird movie details trivia.
Rob, naked grandma. Naked, huh?
I have 2 questions, but it's kind of like a 1 and 2 parter, so I don't know if you want to start.
Sure. Yeah, I'll start. We can bounce over to you. I have 2 as well. Neither of them are very specifically about this movie, but we move. The first one, I don't know if you'll know this. It's either you know it or you don't, basically. But the question is, what was the other magician-centered movie that was released the year before The Prestige? And it was directed by Neil Berger. And I can give you a hint if you don't know it.
What's that?
Oh, come on.
The Illusionist?
Yeah, there it is. Wow. Really needed a hint. The hint is it stars Edward Norton, Jessica Biel, and Paul Giamatti, which is obviously the superior cast of the Magic movies. But
that's true. I prefer Now You See Me 1 and 2 if we're gonna rank our Magic movies, but
I do too. It might be a Magic verse because I mean Michael Caine's in Now You See Me as well. So you never know, man. Could have a crossover event.
It could be like his grandson or something.
It could just be the same person.
Well, it could be, but there's about 200 years in between these movies. But that's Magic, right?
Yeah, Michael Caine never ages. Come on, that's Magic.
What percent critic score does this movie have on Rotten Tomatoes?
Cool.
Would you like choices?
Oh yeah, give me the choices.
66, 76, 86, 96.
This is tough. I didn't look at the Rotten Tomatoes. I would guess it's probably a little bit on the lower end, just because you're asking this question. Battle of the Sixes. I'm gonna go 76.
It is 76.
Wow.
76.
Shambles.
Audience score of 92%. So the audience understands, but I think we're gonna maybe do an episode about Rotten Tomatoes here in the future. So look out for that. But my part 2 of the question is, of all the Nolan films, this is his 3rd lowest Rotten Tomatoes score. What 2 films are lower?
Yeah, I would assume 76 would be one of his lower ones.
Still certified
Nolan,
fresh.
Yeah,
at 76.
Christopher Nolan critically panned movies. I would assume Insomnia is probably lower because that's notably
Al Pacino, Robin Williams, Hilary Swank. You think the critics didn't love that?
Yeah, no, I do. I would definitely say that's one of them. I could be wrong. I mean, what other movies are really bad? I wouldn't say really any of them. But who would the critics not like? I mean, they love all the Batman ones. The Dark Knight Rises is much higher than it should be, I would guess. Interstellar they love as well for some reason. I don't think Tenet's near the 70 range. Memento, that's got to be pretty high. I'm running out of Nolan movies here, man. You got any options? Just list off his filmography.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay.
Tenet, Dunkirk, Interstellar, The Dark Knight Rises, Inception, The Dark Knight, The Prestige, obviously not that. Batman Begins, Insomnia, Memento, Following.
Okay, Following's on there too. I'm gonna guess Insomnia and Following, right? It's gotta be it.
No.
What's lower? Tenet?
Tenet is his lowest rated film
Wow.
at a 69%.
Oh my goodness.
And then a movie we've talked about on the podcast at 72%, Interstellar.
Really? Wow. I thought that would be like 95%. Hell yeah. All right. Rotten Tomatoes, you got that right. You got the Prestige dead wrong.
You wanna hear the rest just for fun?
I'm sure Dark Knight Rises is like 96 for some reason.
So Dark Knight Rises 87.
Okay.
Also tied with Inception, which is an 87. I think that's a travesty.
Wow. That's low as well. Yeah.
Dunkirk 92. Of course, the critics love Dunkirk. The Dark Knight 94. Batman Begins 84. Now here's a loop for you. Insomnia 92%. Memento 93%, and Following coming in at 81. So three highest being Memento, Insomnia, and The Dark Knight. So and Dunkirk tied there for fourth.
I think Memento's a little overrated. Insomnia, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't seen it. So props to Robin Williams, but yeah, no, that's pretty surprising. I guess the critics don't love Nolan as much as I thought they did. I assume like Dark Knight Rises and Inception and Interstellar would all be at like 99%. So I feel like everybody fanboys over those movies, but yeah, maybe they got some of those right.
What's your next question, Cody?
Yeah, my next question, probably another easy one. I threw a couple softballs this week, to be honest. Yeah, it goes, what was the first movie that Christian Bale appeared in, directed by Nolan? There's really only two options because he hasn't been in that many Nolan movies. Is it Batman Begins or The Prestige? You definitely have that IMDb up right now. Too.
No. I just had it pulled up. I'm off the page. So The Prestige came out in 2006. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, The Dark Knight came out in what, 2008?
2008, yeah. Thank you.
Batman Begins come out.
Thank you for the help.
Probably not 2007.
I think it was like 2004, 2005 is Batman Begins. So I'm gonna say Batman Begins. And also why I mean I guess you said it could have been two because obviously it couldn't be The Dark Knight, but I'm gonna go Batman Begins.
Yeah, that's correct.
2005.
It was 05 actually, yeah, and I think that's pretty interesting. They had to have shot these movies pretty close together, and I assume they shot Batman Begins first. I don't really know. I didn't look it up, to be fair, but I think that's a very cool transition going from Batman to The Prestige straight back to Batman again. A lot of work those guys did together over a 3 or 4 year span, which
and then they didn't get back. It wasn't until 2012 that you get Dark Knight Rises again. So
they wait a while. If I was working on movies for you for 5 years, I probably couldn't stand you for a couple of years too. So it's understandable.
I mean, you want to talk about the string of movies, Christian Bale and the body transformation during the 2000s, absolutely insane. You've got him going all over the place. I mean,
The Machinist,
The Machinist 2004 down to like 120 pounds, and then I think he was just like drinking beer and smoking cigarettes, or just something like you just drink alcohol and smoke cigarettes, and he wouldn't eat. And then you have him put on a ton of weight for Batman Begins, and then lose some of her for The Prestige, and then back to The Dark Knight and Terminator and The Fighter getting down as playing like a meth head, and then back to Bruce Wayne, and then you get American Hustle where he fills out a little bit, and then skinny again, and then back to fat for Vice Dick Cheney, and pretty crazy.
He's all over the place. Yeah.
Big Short, he was back. Yeah, skinny Big Short. Like,
yeah, he's got the most body commitment of all time for an actor, I think. Honestly,
Ford v Ferrari again, back to a skinny dude after Vice. So
yeah, whatever you want Christian Bale to look like, it's up to you. He can literally do anything you want. He can go Dick Cheney to the Machinist in probably like 3 months. So I
now he's
respect
playing a CGI character called Gore the God Butcher in Thor: Love and Thunder. So
it. Yeah, I bet he got jacked for that just for no reason. He's CGI, but should be good.
let's take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back. And we're back. Who can act, Cody?
Wow.
Oh, that's nice commercial, Corbin. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I think this movie has a lot of very good actors. I have a clear favorite, but I'll get to him in a second. I think the dual performance of Bale versus Jackman probably isn't talked about enough. We've been talking about it for a while as well, so I won't go too much into it, but I think it's unbelievable stuff. And I think Bale specifically was robbed in a nomination. I think Jackman, I don't think this is his best, but it is very, very good. And then another guy who I think is unbelievable, Michael Caine. Michael Caine, I like to make jokes, but I mean, he's basically the center point of this movie for the first three quarters, I would say. I think he does a hell of a job. He's basically the emotional balance for Jackman, and at the beginning he's sort of the mentor and trying to get into the head of Bale at times. I think he does both really well. I think his relationships with both are super interesting, and even at the end, like he doesn't even pick the side that you'd think he would. But I mean, it's probably his best performance, I would say, other than the Muppet Christmas Carol. But that good movie. Go check it out if you haven't seen it.
It's a classic.
But yeah, those are pretty much my two honorable mentions. But I'll throw it over to you. Who do you think you act?
So we've kind of already talked about the three main people I wanted to talk about in this episode already. Obviously, first of all, Christian Bale is fantastic. I agree 100%. Should have received a nomination. 2006 was a weird year. I mean, you get Leo getting a nomination, but not even for The Departed. It's for Blood Diamond, Ryan Gosling, Peter O'Toole, Will Smith, and then Forrest Whitaker taking home the win with The Last King of Scotland. I don't know. Throw Christian Bale in there. Maybe drop off Gosling or Peter O'Toole, or even Forrest Whitaker. Is it that great? Who knows? Keep the boy Forrest around. He's got to have some pride and go do Arrival in a few years later. So
Yeah.
Christian Bale's fantastic. Michael Caine as well, like you said, performance of a lifetime. He loves his magic movies. I don't know what to tell you. This and Now You See Me, maybe they are the same character, but Michael Caine, he's an old guy, but he puts out bangers every year. Dude is just putting in work, and you got to respect it. And then my last person, I think, is maybe who you're going to talk about. So I'll just throw it over to you.
Oh, wow. Nice guy. I mean, yeah, obviously it's David fucking Bowie. This is a ridiculous performance, I think. And, we talked about Michael Caine, probably the performance of a lifetime. This is the performance of his life. Like I was saying before, he's unrecognizable. He vanishes into this role. Just his mannerisms and the dialogue as well as, helps him a lot. But, I mean, the way he goes about, showing how Nikola Tesla, how he thinks, how he acts, his pitfalls at times, his relationships with Andy Serkis and eventually Hugh Jackman. I think it's unbelievable stuff, and it's an absolute shame he wasn't just nominated at least for an Academy Award. I think maybe in 2020 he probably is nominated because they like nominating people like Lady Gaga or people who aren't actors who give a very good performance. But it doesn't even matter that he's David Bowie. This performance is at that level where even if he is only in the movie for a half hour, I think a supporting actor nod is 100% warranted. And if I'm being honest, like, he should have won. But, every time I say that, they're never even nominated. So the Academy, you did my man Bowie wrong. But, yeah, this is the performance of a lifetime, and I think it deserves more recognition.
It's absolutely incredible, and especially coming from a guy who, while acting and playing characters was a significant role of his persona as on stage and in music videos, despite that fact, he still really he wasn't really an actor. Like, he didn't act in a ton of stuff. He played some small parts. He was obviously most famously in Labyrinth.
Yeah.
But he's not really like an actor in the same way that Bale or Jackman is. But when you see him on screen with people like Serkis and Jackman, and he's clearly the best person in every frame, it's amazing, and you got to bow down to that. So
yeah, I think maybe he stands out a little bit more just because he's partnered up with Andy Serkis in every scene. No offense to that guy, but no, Bowie's ridiculous in this movie, and I love it.
Yeah. I have one more, but I kind of need to talk can act first. So
Okay,
let's throw down who can't
for it.
act.
That's my opinion!
you go.
I don't think Hugh Jackman as Angier is very good.
Okay.
I think, especially in the core cast, outside of maybe Circus, which we'll get to in a second, I think he's the weakest link, which is really tough because he's so pivotal and such at the center of the frame. And he's still pretty good, but comparatively, he's not as good as Bale. He's not as good as Johansson. Even Rebecca Hall is better than him in most of her scenes. So I don't think he's ever the best part of a scene, except when he's playing Root. I gotta admit that character's pretty fun. I know it's bad, like the story beat wise, it sucks, but I think him as Root is really fun. He's actually leaning into like this crazy drunkard actor with a flair for the theater, and I really do love that. So I gotta say, Hugh Jackman can act in about 10 minutes of this movie when he's not playing his main character, and the rest of the time it's not the best.
Wow. Disrespectful. Funny enough, one of my
Jackman as Root.
Yeah, you're dead right. One of my who can act is Hugh Jackman as Root. I do kind of like the opening scene at the bar where he puts him in a headlock, and I kind of like that, but I don't like that character at all, and I think the acting is just not a good choice in general. And yeah, I stand behind Hugh Jackman. You're probably right. He is probably like the fourth or fifth best performance in this movie. But I don't think that necessarily makes him bad. But I don't mind you throwing him in who can't act because there's just so many good performances. But I think we're on the opposite end of the Root character here because.
All right, let's talk about the obvious one then.
Yeah, no, that's where I'm throwing it to next, and I don't think we've said her name yet. Scarlett Johansson is in this movie, guys. And she's not bad, I don't think. I think what is bad in this performance is her accent. I think it doesn't hold up on the fifth watch, that's for sure. She's okay. I think in general, ScarJo's a very good actress, and I think she's good in times in this movie, but I mean, it's early on in her career. It's literally said in the movie she's there just because, she's a good distraction for the audience. I don't think she's bad. Her accent is very, very bad. And on this watch, I was like, I don't even know what she's trying to do with enough time. It goes in and out, pretty quickly. But I would say she's probably the worst in this movie. Is that what you're talking about?
No, it wasn't. But yeah.
You think ScarJo's did? Like, what do you think about her accent?
Yeah, I mean, the accent work's not great, but I think she serves the purpose of the character really well. I think maybe she's kind of sidelined in a way that she shouldn't be. She's kind of just a female character there for the sake of the men in the story. And I think ScarJo, while maybe not the best person, is capable of much more, I guess is what I want to say. Where in this role, she is just playing like a pretty face that's there as a distraction, like you say. But I think she accomplishes that at the very least, even if it is a bad character.
Yeah, I agree. Also, I don't think this movie passes the Bechdel test, does it? RIP.
It was going to. Well, it was going to, but then she hung herself before ScarJo would talk to her.
Yeah,
which actually it wouldn't have, because they would have been talking about a man, which does not pass the Bechdel test. So,
all right,
to be fair, if you want to go through the movies on our list, there's probably a good chunk that don't pass because that is just movie making today. I mean,
2006, what a joke. But yeah.
Do you think any Christopher Nolan movie does?
Do any of the Batmans? Probably not. There's not Rachel. She's dead.
The Dark Knight Rises. Does Catwoman talk to anybody? Tenet. Does Elizabeth Debicki talk to? No.
I mean, Nolan. Looking at this Oppenheimer movie as well, he doesn't. He doesn't have.
There was more. There was another casting today.
Yeah, I saw it. I don't remember.
Who was it?
Some white guy.
Alex Wolff. It was Alex Wolff. Oh
yeah, that's right. But yeah, I mean, his casting and the diversity and everything is not great. So that's 100% a thing I don't like about Nolan movies. But the script in this one obviously is like
Did you know that Eric from Auntie Anne's was also cast in the Oppenheimer movie?
Auntie Anne's.
He's really famous at the Green Hills Mall in Nashville, Tennessee. He's just a white guy.
I was not aware of that. Probably won't, get too many more tickets sold, but that is a pitfall, a big one. I think of Nolan is his casting of, just strictly people who looks like him.
I mean, literally, that is like his goal in most movies is he casts the main character as himself, basically. So,
yeah, pretty much. But I'll throw it over to you. Who's your who can act?
I mean, it was Andy Serkis is going to be a person. Yeah. I think, especially in comparison to what Bowie's doing. I don't know. Serkis listen. He's a hell of a CGI motion capture actor, but I think a lot of his real life in person stuff isn't always as great. So we talked about him last week. We got the back-to-back Serkis picks, and
you really do not like Andy Serkis.
He's playing kind of a similar character. That's the thing. Like, I don't think he's doing anything different between these two movies at all. Like, he's basically just doing the same thing, like a weird old dude that's got issues. I don't know.
Yeah, he's kind of just an oddball in both, I would say. One thing Andy Serkis is good in, I think he's really good as Ulysses Claw in Black Panther. I think he can act. I think he's given the sort of, like I said, oddball, just side character to a cool character in other movies. But I do agree he's not great in this.
Yeah. Let's move on to the recast.
You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired.
Let's do it. I have a couple. I'll start us off and chuck it over to you. This is tough. This is a tough recast. Obviously, we're going to pick on certain people, which I'll get to in my second pick. But my first pick, I actually wanted to just go full Nolan and replace Rebecca Hall, who I think is good in this movie. She's a little bit wasted, so I kind of want to get a bigger name in to make the character a little bit more prominent. She's going to get more lines, more story. So I'm throwing Anne Hathaway in. I think this is Anne Hathaway's bread and butter. Oh my goodness. A Nolan movie, more of a drama.
Like being like a wife wet blanket. Is that what you want her to play, Cody?
No, that's not what I'm saying. But I think if you put Anne Hathaway third billing in this movie, it makes that character a lot more interesting. It makes Borden a lot more interesting, a lot more depth between the Freddie and Alfred, like we were talking about before. But also just another great actress. I think Anne Hathaway is phenomenal on a lot of stuff, notably terrible in Interstellar, but this is a lot earlier in her career, so she's going to continue that stuff. But yeah, I like Rebecca Hall, but let's throw another star in there, get some more female prominence in here. I'm here for it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to go with, I guess you could consider this a Nolan pick because he has been in a Nolan movie. I'm taking Leonardo DiCaprio, and we're going to put him in as Angier.
Oh man,
he's a little younger than Jackman, but dude, you can't tell me. Obviously, Leo's already in 2 other movies this year, but you can't tell me he would not absolutely eat up this performance. Like, let Leo do some magic, bro.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% here for it. Imagine that year he would have had The Prestige.
I mean, it's just not possible. Nobody can film that many movies.
In The
but
Departed.
He could drop Blood Diamond.
Yeah, that's true. Somebody else could do a terrible South African accent, but I'm definitely
Oscar nominated South African accent.
Yeah, fair enough. Jamin Hansi robbed, but yeah, no, I'm here for that 100%.
And then since I'm switching out of Angier, I wanted to throw in another pick, and the ages again don't quite line up, but I'm taking Adam Driver. We're just picking our favorite, my favorite actors, and I'm gonna make him. Sorry, he's gonna play Borden, so he'll take Christian Bale's spot. Adam Driver's gonna come in.
Interesting. I think I'd like to see him more in Angier's spot, but I mean that's a good pick too.
I think you need like a little bit of a physical difference between the two. I think like the tall or slender Christian Bale versus like the shorter. I guess Hugh Jackman's not really short, but he always seems like more like short and stocky in comparison. And I like that, like Adam Driver, Leo, like those two would be the two I'd pair together. So
we should just remake it and throw those guys in at the movie.
Let's do it.
But keep Michael Caine.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't get rid of Michael
David
Caine. Yeah.
Rip. My second recast, I am going after Andy Serkis. Like we were saying, he's not great. and I'm bringing back a classic here, a KHAP classic.
David Bowie.
No, we're going Dave Bautista.
That's what I meant to say.
David Bowie for Andy Serkis. Yeah, just give him both.
No, yeah, Dave Bautista. That's so stupid. This is a bad cast.
What? Dave Bautista makes every cast on Her Times better, and these are the roles that he's great in. The little side character.
This movie loses a star if Dave Bautista's in this.
That's disrespectful, my man Dave. But he'd be like a perfect fit for that role because he could be like a bodyguard for Tesla too. He's not like his bumbling assistant with a cat. He can actually fight off these Edison goons. He pulls out the shotgun at the end and starts taking some names. But I'm definitely here for Dave Bautista to be thrown in, and you might as well make this character a little bit more fun.
Morgan Freeman, you ever heard of him?
Yeah. Where do you want him?
He's either gonna play one of the promoters or one of the theater managers, or the place that I really saw him is the judge that like Michael Kane has the little like side meeting with, where he has to like explain the character or the tricks to him. Put Morgan Freeman in there. Fuck yeah, Morgan Freeman's amazing.
Now you see
the movie.
Me. Another
exactly.
Yeah.
I want the Now You See Me connection to live on. Mark Ruffalo could be the assistant. He can be Andy Serkis.
I think Mark Ruffalo at this time in his career actually would have been a good fit for this movie too. So
he could. I could see him play Angier as well. And you know what? Melanie Laurent from Now You See Me, she could play Rebecca Hall's character. She can play the wife.
What about Dave?
Actually, you know what? I think Melanie Laurent can play. She's not in the second Now You See Me, but she's in the first one. She can play Scarlett Johansson's character instead of her. I think that's a better fit.
Okay, I like that. Isla Fisher, she can be Borden's daughter. James Franco.
Dave Franco, not James.
Oh,
Franco.
whatever. Dave. I'm sorry. Dave can be his son. But we'll just throw him in.
And Jesse Eisenberg can be the fake Hugh Jackman. He can be the fake Leo. He can be the double.
Makes sense. Now You See Me versus Complete.
Cool.
What's your rating, Corby? Start us off.
You're gonna look at me and you're gonna tell me that I'm wrong? Am I wrong?
Hey, I gotta go big for this movie. I gotta ride for this movie. One of my favorites that we've done on the podcast. 65 out of 69. I think this movie, despite the issues we talked about, this is still just like an incredibly fun watch. And like when you said, hey, we're gonna do the Prestige, like not even bat an eye, like, yeah, let me watch this. Like I'm all over it. Like no big deal whatsoever. 5-star movie easily.
Wow. I'm very proud that I finally brought a movie that Corbin is a big fan of. Yeah. Very proud of myself. But I completely agree. Obviously, we've been praising this movie a lot. And I'm going right next to you with my rating. I'm going 66 out of 69, which I believe is my third highest rating movie. I don't know where Moonlight's at. I think 67. Yeah, I mean, it's up there for me. It's easily.
Arrival's a 68. Moonlight's a 67. So yeah.
There you go. Put them in line, baby. Those are my three.
Also my third highest. So
yeah, no, this is a very high rating for you as well. But yeah, no, obviously I'm super high in this. I think those probably are my three favorite movies. If you go to my letterbox, those are the three on top. So yeah, big fan. Prestige. You haven't seen it? Check it out.
If you haven't seen it and you just listened to this episode, that's probably not. Spoiler warning.
We should have said that at the top. Go watch this movie. So good.
Hey, when I first started releasing these episodes, I put spoiler in the title, and then I had somebody go, obviously there's spoilers, and also you're gonna say spoilers for a movie that came out 9 years ago. Okay, you know what? Fuck it. This movie came out 16 years ago. So if you haven't seen it, then you suck, and you should go watch it.
Damn, just berating our audience now too. I like it.
It's on Amazon Prime for the next 9 days.
Oh, really? Well, that was perfect timing for me. What a pick. What a pick. But yeah, no, seriously, if you haven't seen this movie, you have to go watch it. Even if we spoiled it, I don't care. Go fucking watch it.
Time for We Have a Podgorithm. Shuffle up the cards.
Season 3.
All right, here's the card. It's another 90s film, keeping it going from last week. I don't think it's one that either of us have seen, but I have lots of things to say about it. It's The Usual Suspects.
Oh, I've seen this movie.
Okay, so you can talk about the actual movie, and I can talk about the controversy surrounding it. So
Kevin Spacey.
it goes deeper. It goes deeper. All right, you want to go ahead and hit it first? Tell us about the film in 30 seconds, Cody.
I'll tell you what, it is a pretty good film. Definitely a 90s movie, but great cast overall, other than the lead. It's sort of, not similar to this movie, but similar in a sense because it has an iconic ending. And I think it is mostly just build up towards that ending. You get there, very, very good stuff, and very good performances all around it. It's pretty much a small scale sort of set in how it's filmed, mostly just, back and forth dialogue. They're trying to figure out, who the mob boss is. They've captured this scared little guy who works for him. And it's a lot of mind games. It's a lot of fun. Eventually, there's a massive twist. I won't spoil it, but also just, there's such fun moments. The iconic line them up scene, whatever it's called, where they're standing and you say, it's that guy. It's that
Literally
guy.
the cover. All right, that's time.
Good movie, but whatever. 30 seconds, not enough. But Corbito, let's hear the issues with it.
Kevin Spacey, obviously, he raped a kid. An 18-year-old boy. So that's tough. He's in this movie. Also, the director of the film, Bryan Singer, also several sexual misconduct case against young boys. Very bad look. He also would go on to do the X-Men following this, but you know what? He had cases before the X-Men even came out, and all the way since 1999 up until present day, people are coming out suing this dude because he's sexually harassing them or doing all sorts of terrible things. So I don't know. It's kind of a tough watch in hindsight. Can you separate the art from the artist? I guess I'll let you guys make that decision. But Bryan Singer, Kevin Spacey, not great dudes.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously.
That's a hot take, Cody.
Yeah, the tough thing with Bryan Singer is too, I think Days of Future Past
is so good.
My favorite comic book movie of all time. And to have his name attached is definitely tough. But yeah, no, I completely agree with you saying. Kevin Spacey, fucking scumbag. If that guy's ever in a movie again, let's start a revolution. Burn down whoever theater. No, I'm joking. But Kevin Spacey, bad guy, and deserves no recognition. But we're giving him a shout out nonetheless.
Yeah, it's definitely tough because Bryan Singer started out with the first X-Men movie. They, did some other projects, and then he ended up coming back and doing Days of Future Past, and it's so good, but it's a little bit tarnished there. So,
agreed.
Recommendations, Cody.
I drink your milkshake. I drink it up.
What have you been into? Take it away. I know there's something that started a couple weeks ago that you didn't mention on the podcast that I have not gotten a chance to watch yet, but tell us about it. What do you think?
Oh, you're talking about Survivor?
Yeah.
It's going. Survivor, that is one of the things I've been into recently. It's only been, I believe, 2 episodes, third one this week. The premiere was all right. I think last week was definitely a good episode. Very intense stuff. They're going with an intense theme going forward, which I do like, but I'm more of a gameplay guy than the actual survival of it. So also just give me a returning season already. Like the newbie seasons are good, but it's been I don't know, 15 seasons since, other than Winners at War, which is a culmination of 40 years. So there hasn't been a newbie bring them back sort of all-star season since I believe it was 29 or 33 or something with Second Chance. Regardless, good show. But
I don't think that was 15 years ago, but
well, I mean, it's been a while since an all-star season. But yeah, no theme. I don't know. I think for 43 and 44, there's got to be a theme at least and to ride around. But definitely check out Survivor. Some other stuff I've been into. Honestly, not a lot. March Madness was this weekend, so
Purdue, baby.
I did absolutely nothing other than watch college basketball, which I'm completely fine with. And yeah, Purdue didn't lose. So
how's the bracket?
Not great. Oh, absolutely shot. But I do have Purdue in the Final Four, and we have a clear path now. We're not jinxing it, but we have a shot. So that's mostly what I've been doing. Also, just shout out Impractical Jokers again. I was binging that last night. Heck of a show.
Oh,
Joe Gatto. if you're listening, my guy, you got to come back. I saw previews for the new season. He's not on it. They're gonna have like guests and stuff. The main one being Eric Andre, who I am a big fan of. I really do like Eric Andre, but it's just not gonna be the same without Joe. So if I say they make one more season, and Mr. Gatto's got to come back. But yeah, that's pretty much my rec for this week, man. Not too much.
Yeah. So the big two things I've talked about it on the podcast because I had already seen it once, but I went to the movie theater last week down in Orlando while I was on vacation with Mina, and we saw Belfast again. She hadn't seen it, and I checked it out for a second time. I loved it even more the second time. It rose, I think, to my second or third favorite movie of last year, when it was, I think, like 4 or 5 previously. It's so beautiful. It's a little bit of a carbon copy of a couple other films. It definitely has some Roma vibes. It definitely, it takes a lot, but I think it's still like a really beautiful story from Kenneth Branagh. So visually appealing, so emotional. Check out Belfast. Oscars are in like a week and a half. I don't think it's going to win Best Picture, but I really think Belfast is amazing, and it's one of my favorites of all time now. So also checked out an A24 film, Joaquin Phoenix, the role of Come On, Come On. It was one that came out, and right when it came out had a little bit of buzz, Joaquin Phoenix, maybe Best Actor, and then kind of just died off right away. And I don't really know why that was. I didn't personally connect with the film super heavily. I think it was well done. It's an interesting story. But it's kind of just meh for me. 3.5 stars. So 2 black and white films though, back to back. Everybody cashing in on the black and white in 2021, I guess.
Big trend, black and white. But
and I will catch up on Survivor so that we can have a full discussion next week.
Very nice.
And then finally, last week was our 1990s movie draft.
Yeah. Are we declaring a winner here? Or?
I say we do.
I haven't looked at the polls since it came out. Honestly, I completely got distracted today, but I think I have a pretty good shot, if I'm being honest.
Well, you should probably check the poll again. Okay, so technically there's an hour and a half left, but I'm just going to declare a winner here, and if we're wrong, I'll just cut this.
Have I been dethroned?
The winner is Liam Durbin.
Oh, bull crap.
Coming out of nowhere. JD and Cody had the early lead. Liam he put in the footwork on social media. He asked people to vote for him. Listen, I think his movies were decent, but he's taking home the dub. Cody's finally dethroned. How does it feel?
I would be mad if it was anybody other than Liam. Just such a good guy, Can't hate on him. Well deserved, my guy. Very proud. But yeah, I probably should have gone on, used all my bot accounts to vote for it. But no, congrats to Liam, and definitely well deserved.
No, yeah, I gotta say I lost to Liam in the opening round, so I'll take this as a dub for me as well. So listen, I think it was tough. I had a tough matchup early.
Yeah.
So
not much you can do about it. I would declare you second place, but your picks were terrible. So
I think this is my best draft ever.
You're stuck in the toilet bowl with Junior.
Never want to be there, that's for sure. Thanks so much for listening. Follow us on social media at KHAP Podcast, KHAPODCAST. Give us a rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Give us a review. If you want to be a guest, come on. We got a lot of fun things in store for the rest of season 3, and we'll see you in the next week.
Stay capping.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.